This program is brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
Good evening and a very warm welcome to First Issues. Are you the master of your own fate? Or do you just make do with whatever life throws at you, swimming along with the tide as best you can? Do you dare to hope and strive towards a concrete goal, making 5 or 10-year plans as some others do? Or do you question whether there's a point in mapping out your life when chance and circumstance also exist? Dragging yourself through a life that is not of your own design, working a job you see no point in, towards an end even you yourself do not understand, cannot possibly be the best that life has to offer. Industrial psychologist Kiran Robertson makes a strong case for goal setting this evening, sharing the importance of such a practice in improving the overall quality of an individual's life.
Not having any goals is like driving your car without the headlights on at night. You will move, but no matter how well engineered or fancy your car is, you will drive slowly, hesitantly, because you won't know what is ahead. The minute you set a goal, it is like switching the headlights on your car, and now you can focus and channel your energies and your abilities. So there's one thing we all have in common in life, and that is not to struggle, not to stay on a bumpy road all the time, or to go round and round in the traffic circle. We want to progress, we want to get to go. And goals enables that. It enables us to see that sign up ahead and say, welcome, you've arrived, you've reached your goal. And that motivates us, it inspires us, and then it also builds our competence and our confidence.
If goals are so important, why do we neglect setting them?
The first thing that comes to my mind is that we just don't know the importance of goals. We can grow up without really knowing how setting a goal can actually make such a huge impact in your life. The second thing that comes to my mind is that we don't set goals because we don't know how to. Some people might think they've got a goal, but those may be just wishes or dreams, for example, to be happy or to earn more money. The third thing that I can think of is that life is busy, life is hectic, and setting goals takes up energy. Remember, that is in the prefrontal cortex that we spoke about in time management. That process happens there, and the prefrontal cortex draws a lot of energy and glucose and from the brain's oxygen levels. And we want to preserve our energy. We just have, if I can do today what will get me through today and make me survive, then that's what I will do. Setting goals also requires us to think about something, a situation that we haven't, the future, we haven't seen it. And that also takes up more energy than just focusing on the here and now, on the problem. So now I have to be solution focused instead of problem focused. So that is a reason. The other thing is just, I think, fear of failure. I set a goal. Oh, I have to reach it, and if I don't reach it, I will look like a failure and I will feel like a failure.
So you said goals aren't wishes or fantasies. What makes a goal and not a simple wish? What makes a goal effective?
It must be visionary and inspiring. So we want to phrase our goals as solutions, focusing on the vision. So we want our goals to be inspiring or visionary. We want to phrase our goals as vision focused rather than problem focused. This is focusing on what is possible rather than on what is wrong. So I will phrase a goal as positively, like say, to be fit and fabulous at 40, rather than to say, I must stop being so lazy. So that is the first criteria for our goal, is for it to be visionary and inspiring. The next thing is that it must be challenging. To say I'm going to lose 1 kilogram may not be as inspiring as to say I'm going to lose 5 kilograms when I actually have to lose 8 kilograms to be healthy. So, but we also have to make sure that it's not too daunting or not achievable within the time frame that we set. So it must be challenging. The third criteria for a goal, it has to have a measure built into it. So rather than to say I want to increase my sales, I can rephrase that goal and to say that I want to earn 2,000 pula extra from sales. So then with that measure built in, we will also know when it is achieved.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world, because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
So where do we even begin? You've made a great case for setting goals, but what is the starting point?
The starting point is to create that vision. So you want to ask yourself questions. What is your vision in this area over X months of time? Questions like, if everything was possible, what do I see in this area of my life X months from now? In formulating that goal statement, it's also important to have a growth mindset. Not to focus on the problem, which is a fixed mindset, but to focus on the solution. Not to be bogged down by the detail, but to keep the goal in mind and to remain open and determined and not to focus on what is current, the status quo. So the starting point is to create that vision.
What happens when you do stumble along the way? How do you overcome obstacles?
There is a recipe for setting milestones. We would normally start with defining where we are now. What is our current reality? And that sets a strong foundation for moving forward. Then we want to create a vision of where we want to be. Deepening that vision that you have of what you want to achieve in X months' time. Then we would explore options of how to move forward. Then it's implementing the plan. And very importantly, a step that we neglect is celebrating our successes. And in following that recipe, you will already be setting yourself up for success.
In which ways do we celebrate successes? Which ways are constructive?
In setting goals, we must remember that no two brains are alike. And we normally it's so easy to give advice. This is goal setting is a personal process. Your mom can give advice, your sister can give advice. When I tried to do this, this is what I did. But you have to set your own milestones and come up with your own actions.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world, because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how...
Welcome back to First Issues. Solutions are never one size fits all. You do not replicate successes you have seen elsewhere by copying everything that was done down to the letter. This holds true for an individual, a corporation, and even a national economy. When implementing best practice from somewhere else, you must take into account the fact that several factors will not be the same. It may be different times, it may be a different location, culture, infrastructure, global trends, and so forth. The people best placed to evaluate solutions for Botswana's economic landscape are therefore most likely those who have first-hand experience operating within it and in the more advanced environments that this country aims to be competitively at par with. To offer us an explanation of Botswana's private sector that has been informed by such experiences is Tsipidi Moremong, who has worked for corporate giants the likes of Goldman Sachs and Ernst & Young, and apart from Botswana, in countries such as the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and currently South Africa. As head of coverage with Rand Merchant Bank, she shares what she considers to be the challenges facing Botswana's private sector.
A couple of challenges. I think the private sector is small, right? And I think for too long our private sector has focused inwards and have looked at this economy and actually depended quite a lot on government and looked to government for assistance. So I think the challenge is for us as the private sector to introspect and say, what is it that we want to do differently? The Botswana market is small, so how do we launch ourselves regionally, globally, across the continent? So I think that to me is one of the challenges in that we've been very inward looking at the private sector, number one. Number two, I mean, we talk a lot around job creation and not having the requisite talent or the skills in place in order to be able to deliver on our strategies of the private sector. I think it's incumbent upon us as a private sector to train, right? Botswana's got relatively high literacy rates. And yes, those who leave sort of tertiary education and post that don't necessarily have the requisite skills, but you've got the fertile ground to train. Government provides us with rebates when we train. So it takes a longer time and the investment is upfront, but I think we also need to meet the government halfway and embark on, you know, bestowing the skills to the youth in this country.
From your experiences and your observations elsewhere, have you seen any marked differences, maybe even best practices in other countries that we simply are lacking here? What needs to be done? What can we do immediately?
So let me start with government. One, a large number of our strategies are very ambitious. Mm-hmm. So if you look at NDP 11, there's a whole litany of activities or initiatives we want to launch. And I guess the request from my side when it comes to government is, let's focus on one or two and do them very well. And I think this is what the private sector is saying. Let's just focus on one and do it very well, rather than have something that's very ambitious that we actually never get to launch. Number two, let's implement and let there be accountability if implementation doesn't happen. So that to me is an incredible start with regards to, you know, the key things that we need to focus on as a country going forward. Accountability and implementation and narrowing down our strategic objectives.
And while the government is getting its act in order, while privatization is taking as long as it is to come to fruition, what should the private sector be doing?
The private sector should be focusing on productivity, right? Botswana is known to be a low productivity country, right? And the key components of driving GDP growth, it's around labor productivity. So the focus for us is how do we enhance efficiencies in our enterprises? In that way, you can be competitive. You can be competitive regionally, you can be competitive across the continent, you can be competitive globally. So unless we get to the crux of that, we need to be a little bit more hungry, I think is what I'm really asking for. And that to me is really the basis of what productivity is about. Hunger to do just a little bit more, just a little bit better.
But why do we find ourselves lacking in hunger and in personal accountability and in all these things that really pull the country back?
Because of what I'd call the foundation of our economy, right? So there's this, I think Botswana evolved, right? The social fabric or the social network, right, was what drove us. And what I mean by that is that government was always there if you're falling to help you, right? If you look through NDP 10, GDP growth was 1.5%. No, not GDP growth, employment growth during NDP 10 was 1.5%. So we've hovered, right, in our formal employment at around 340,000, 350,000. During the same time, Ipelekhing's employment growth was 3.4%, right? So almost double that of formal employment creation, not almost, more than double formal employment creation. So I think for too long we've got this protectionist and too much of a developmental mindset, right? We've got 760,000 people on Ipelekhe. That's twice the people who are paying taxes in this country. It's not sustainable. It's really not sustainable. And therefore, and therein lies our lack of hunger, because we know that there's somebody who's going to catch us when we fall. And government has played that role for way too long.
And finally, on a more personal level, as a Motswana who's worked in the States, in the UK, and now in South Africa, for big names such as Ernst & Young, Goldman Sachs, what have been your learnings from that? And what advice would you give to the aspiring and maybe ambitious Botswana watching at home right now?
What I've learned from that is Botswana gave me a great foundation, right? My high school career was here, so it gave me a very solid foundation. But I think more importantly, it gave me a sense of self, right? And we take that very lightly. But in the international environment, it's very important that you're aware of who you are and where you come from. So that was a fantastic foundation that I think Botswana and my parents provided me. And what, I guess, working in various continents and different institutions has taught me is you just need to work that much harder, right? And nothing is impossible, right? I think there's a certain audacity that I've seen in working in markets such as Nigeria and the United States, where nothing is impossible. The word can't doesn't exist in many of those cultures, right? In the sense that if you set your eye on something, go for it and go for broke, right? So I've enjoyed working in different environments where I've been challenged from a skill perspective, but also challenged sort of socially, etc. So it's been a wonderful learning experience. I do what I do because I learn every single day.
Welcome back to First Issues and to our Own Your Day, Own Your Life segment with Professor Kiran Bhagat. The Global Competitiveness Report asserts that health is one of the pillars they use to evaluate a country because healthier individuals have more physical and mental capabilities, are more productive and creative, and tend to invest more in education as life expectancy increases. And that healthier children develop into adults with stronger cognitive abilities. Tonight, Professor Bhagat addresses those who do not make the effort to get fit and healthy because they believe that obesity is in their genes and therefore insurmountable.
I think we fail to understand two things. One is that it's not about fat. It's not about eating fat. You know, we are on this turning wheel, which has been again driven by the food industry, that you have to have low fat yogurt, low fat drinks, low sugar drinks. It's not about the fat content, it's about the sugar content. And so there are good fats, of course, and there are bad fats. There are good fats that actually contribute. You need fat, you need cholesterol in your diet because majority of your brain is made of cholesterol. We know that people who continue to take very high cholesterol related medication have a higher incidence of dementia, have a higher incidence of Alzheimer's, have a higher incidence of forgetfulness, and have a growing percentage of patients that become diabetic. So if you need cholesterol medication, and there are certain people that need cholesterol lowering medication, you take it as prescribed by a doctor, not because you think the cholesterol is very high. And there are good fats that are very healthy that the body needs to manufacture cholesterol, because your body needs cholesterol. The lining of the cells in your body are made of cholesterol. And if you don't have enough cholesterol, you don't produce certain hormones. For example, testosterone. Testosterone is a male hormone. Estrogen is a female hormone. Their principal core is cholesterol. And that cholesterol comes from good fats, fats such as coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, macadamia oil. These are healthy fats that you can, ghee, which is clarified butter, which you can get from any supermarket and it's very cheap. These are the oils we should be getting. We should not be eating processed oils, oils that are manufactured in a factory. For example, sunflower oil, safflower oil, canola oil. These are highly processed, highly engineered oils. And to extract the oil from a sunflower seed requires an incredible chemical process, which by the time the oil looks golden yellow, has been through an enormous amount of chemistry that is actually toxic for the system. So avoid processed oils, eat natural oils. That is what we're not getting.
That is why we as First Issues continue to bring you tips that encourage healthier living alongside the leadership, entrepreneurial, consumer and other issues that we're better known for. This program was brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?